potentially catastrophic storm has now begun its life-threatening march across much of the country.
I traveled to New York, because why not? I did check the weather and was told by everybody not to go. There was supposed to be a storm and New York was supposed to get 2 to 3 feet of snow. Why would I listen? I brought my Leica M6, which is going to be my go-to camera this year, and 3 rolls of film. Absolutely no plans. I had no idea what I wanted to see or what I wanted to do. 1 roll of expired Fuji, Portra 400, and Cinestill 800T, because film choice was clearly more important than making sure my house was not going to fall apart while I was gone. There's this idea that when you arrive to New York, you get handed inspiration. You know, you arrive, you look around, and you just start taking pictures left and right, and boom, you're a photographer. Instead, I got off the metro, and my desire to photograph was gone. You know, I had no idea what to do. I couldn't check into my Airbnb, so I walked around Manhattan pretending like I knew what I was doing. I then checked into my Airbnb and from there decided to take a ferry back to Manhattan. I didn't get any photos that I really wanted, but here are a few of them, and they're okay. I ended the first night at a restaurant, got a beer, took a taxi to the Airbnb, and day 1, no masterpiece, just sore feet and a roll of film gone. Day 2, I took a bus to the metro. Personal growth. I loaded some expired SFX 200 because nothing says confidence like adding unpredictability to an already unpredictable city. Found an ice rink in Manhattan. It felt staged, like winter had a marketing department. The expired film developed poorly on my end, but it felt honest. People falling, laughing, getting back up. I stopped chasing iconic frames and started noticing smaller things, enjoying the moment. Skates carving ice. And if my film turned out good, then maybe I would have had some really nice shots, but as you can see, they didn't develop well at all. And the shots look like crap. Next, I went to MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art. Standing in front of work you've admired for years is a little disorienting. It makes you want to try harder and quit immediately. Here are some of my favorite paintings, including Edward Hopper, who's a great inspiration. He has really beautiful paintings. I, of course, saw Van Gogh's Starry Night, as well as Monet's Water Lilies. They are so beautiful, but in my opinion, overrated because everybody wants to see them, and I can't be left alone to just admire them. I did see these 2 friends catching up, it looks like, and I did have time to take a quick shot. It turned out really well, in my opinion. Looking at art that will outlive you kind of does something to your ego. 36 exposures suddenly feel like nothing. I walked out of MoMA really inspired. I saw a bunch of amazing photos that were on display as well. I didn't record any. I was really in the moment seeing these photos that were permanently on display. and I felt small like an ant. Time to go get some food. I sat down at this really nice pub, kind of, before getting on a ferry, knowing I might get seasick, especially with a full stomach, wasn't the smartest idea a troglodyte like me has had. As I walked to the harbor, I loaded some Portra 400. The safe choice, the professional choice, the predictable choice. As I arrived to the dock, it was a little empty, with no line of any sort. I took the Staten Island ferry to go see the Statue of Liberty. Framing something that is symbolic through a tiny rangefinder window feels slightly absurd. All of that history reduced to 35 millimeters. I shot it anyway, because some cliches are earned, and mine didn't turn out good. Here are some of my favorite shots that I got on the ferry. They turned out okay, a little normal, some would say, but I genuinely liked it a lot.
All passengers must depart the ferry at this time.
I then waited to take the round trip back. On the way back, I got a few more shots that I was proud of, including this one. It turned out pretty good with a slight bit of overexposure. I met this guy on the ferry who was visiting and had 2 Leicas on him. He was from Germany, and we talked a bit. And if you've ever talked to a German, you know that they're very straight to the point and short with people, but he was a nice guy. As my trip ended on the ferry, I got ready to go back home as I waited for the bus to take another ferry back to Brooklyn. And that was the end of day 2. No super touristy places, just walking around and enjoying the presence of the city. And then went back to the Airbnb, got to bed, got ready for the next day. Snow. As I arrived to Manhattan, I realized that I wasn't prepared as well as I thought I could have been. My gloves were too thin and not windproof. I had a leather jacket, I had a beanie, I had something to cover 3/4 of my face just so I could see. And I realized that it wasn't enough. It was basically a blizzard outside. I couldn't really see, I don't know, maybe 100, 200 feet in front of me. It was pretty bad. The Leica was getting, as the snow would hit the camera, it would melt and then freeze because I think it was like 17 degrees that day. It was so cold that, yeah, I had to sit there and kind of cover the Leica as I walked around. I did have my Fujifilm, which I did take more photos on. I will input some of them. They weren't shot on film. I know. But I was a little worried of ruining my Leica that this was like the first trip that I went on. I didn't want it to get full of water or freeze up or bind. It was CLA'd before I purchased, but yeah, I took a few photos. These are the 2 that I enjoyed the most. Color wise and exposure wise. truth be told, I was truly enjoying, just walking around in the snow. I used to live in Utah, and I'm currently in a state where the snow is not present, and it was really nice to just kind of be back in that vibe with the snow, especially in New York City. You see a lot of these movies, and it's always just snow everywhere Christmas time in New York, which doesn't really happen that much. But I had a good time. I got a few shots. I was walking around just kind of with the Fujifilm every once in a while, pulled out the Leica to, underneath the leather jacket to take a shot here and there. And I went back to the Airbnb. I had a hard time getting back to Brooklyn. Buses, super delayed. The subways were still working, but I either had to walk 20 minutes or wait for a bus, and I decided just to kind of walk the bus route to see eventually if a bus would come pick me up. But yeah, the plows were having issues because so many people were getting stuck in the road that they couldn't plow the road, so the buses were having issues getting to where they needed to go. I eventually got home to the Airbnb, and I just blacked out. And I woke up, I didn't eat breakfast that day, didn't eat lunch, and it was nighttime. So I decided to walk around Red Hook, which is where the Airbnb was. And I found that nothing is open when it snows. People can't make it to the job, so employees can't make it to the job, so employers just close down the business. But I found one bar that was open, and they didn't serve food. But I went inside anyway. As I went inside, I finished my roll of 800T. I took some shots of the lighting and of some of the people inside, and I ordered a beer. It was cash only. I had a little bit of cash on me, thankfully. They didn't have any food, though. As time went on, I kind of started to talk to these people, and they were all regulars that lived really close because other people couldn't get there as, the plows weren't plowing at night. They were just going to wait until the snow stopped, the accumulation stopped, to plow the roads and get everything ready. So there were just some people who lived around there, and the people were saying that there's usually a line to get inside of the bar. And there was almost nobody in there. There was like 5 or 6 people. And they do live music every day. Well, the band finally showed up, and they started playing some music, and I had a really good time. I felt very welcomed. These were the only people in New York City to really care about, me as a tourist there, and what I was doing, etc., etc. So it was a really different experience compared to the rest of the city. And I hope you enjoy these videos as much as I do.
Different from what's happening now, but also just it overlaps.
You're not gonna do it again? I didn't see the first one, right?
one of the regulars that lived upstairs was kind enough to give me some food. He made it upstairs in his house. He came, brought it down. We talked a bit. Super nice guy. They were outside in the snow with a Subaru pulling a snowboard and just having the time of their life outside, which was just so cool to hear. I went outside a bit too, just to watch them. But the night went on, got free food, talked to more people, and just kind of enjoyed the folk music and the vibe that the people were giving. And yeah, I stayed there until around midnight, and I went back outside to shoot some night shots. But just before that happened, this girl was waiting for her friend so they could leave. And I took the shot, and it may be one of the best shots I've taken this whole weekend. Went outside and took some shots, and they turned out okay. Not my favorite, but it was a fun time to just sit outside after the snow stopped and enjoy kind of the light pollution in the sky, because I guess it's just never dark when it's that cloudy in New York. That was the rest of that night. I just went back, fell asleep, had to be up early the next morning to get an Uber to the airport. I truly enjoyed this trip. I had a few last shots at the airport. I was having some issues at the airport. Flight got canceled once or twice. Ended up having to stay another day. So I just ended up finishing that roll at the hotel and took some pictures of whatever I could. And I got a pretty good toilet shot. But that was it. It was a needed trip. I haven't been to New York in a while, and it's right up the road, living on the East Coast now, super close. It was an experience. And what I learned from this trip was, even if, there's going to be a storm and it doesn't look like it's going to be like the best time, and it's what you make of it. And what you make of it, and just get out there and just go enjoy that day. Don't be thinking about tomorrow, what's going to happen tomorrow, because every day something special happens. And my goal, at least, is to capture it so I can remember it. Peace.